Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do these two simple landscape painting that has a little bit of Studio Ghibli style in it. And we are going to use this Canson XL watercolor 300 GSM sketchbook with Nika poster color. Let's get started. So first I'm going to use clean water to wet the paper. I do this because it would help me get the smooth transition in the sky color and also help get fluffier clouds. Then after the paper has absorbed a little bit of the water while it's still wet, I put down this very light blue color as the base, and as I move more toward the top, I add a little bit more cobalt blue to make it slightly darker but not too much. And as I move toward the horizon line, I add a little bit more white to that to make it slightly lighter. After that, I'm using a clean damp brush to take off some of the blue paint that I just put down in this area where the cloud is going to be painted. For the highlight on the cloud, I just going in with straight white without mixing with anything. And because this is still wet, once it's dry, it will dry slightly darker. So I am going very bold right now, just using pretty thick white without much water. Then for the shadow part of these clouds, I mix a very light purple, almost like white, but you can still see a little bit of purple and bluish hue in it. And I'm putting it down where everything is still wet. And as you can see, because of that, there isn't really any hard edges on the cloud and everything look kind of fluffy. And that's the look I'm going for. After that, I'm just using thick white again, just to reinforce some of the highlight area, because right now the white that I originally put down has kind of like half dry and is getting a little bit darker than I would like it to be. So I'm going back in with some thick white to reinforce this highlight. Now after we finish with the cloud, I'm using also a grayish but a little bit blue and purplish color to paint the mountain. For the grass view, it will have kind of like a similar gradient compared to the sky, where it would be a little bit lighter toward the horizon and darker toward the edges. And after I put down the gradient while everything is still wet, I'm kind of going with some different hue of green and just put down some grass blade. And right here you kind of see that the stroke that I put down will be blurry and blending in with everything, because the paper is still wet. While we wait for the field to dry a little bit, I'm just going back in with some lighter color to add a little bit texture on the mountain, and also use a little bit dark color to separate that foreground mountain from the one far away in the back. And once the grass field below already dry, I'm going back in and just adding a bunch of detail and grass blade to make the painting look more interesting. And I try to add some of these darker grass closer to the foreground, and as I move toward more of the horizon line, these grass will be lighter. And right now, because the paper is dry, you can see the grass blade standing out as a separate layer instead of blending in like what we did previously. Lastly, I'm using a yellow color to add a little bit of dots, acting as flowers on this grass view. And there we have our first painting. For the second painting, which is kind of like a sunset cloudscape sky, I also wet the paper with clean water first just so I can get some smooth color transition in it. And for the base color of the sky, I'm mixing a light skin tone color with some pink and orange and just put that down as my base sky color. After that, I'm just adding a little bit of different colors, some red and then sometimes a little bit more orange, make it slightly darker, and just put that down randomly everywhere on the paper to create some subtle transitioning between colors. Then I'm mixing a purplish color but more toward the warmer tone, so a little bit more red than blue to start off for this clouds. And I put these color in while the background is already half dried, so I don't want to wait for it to be completely dry yet, but I want it to be dry enough so that I can layer these purple cloud on top of them without having them just blend straight in with the background. After that, I'm mixing a more yellow skin tone color compared to the background, and I'm putting that on top as highlights for our clouds. For the shadow part, I'm also using purple, but this purple has a lot more blue shade in it compared to the previous one. And I'm mixing that more blue purple with some of the original warmer purple and use that for the transition between the midtone and the shadow, just to blend it in and make the cloud look a little bit more fluffy and less hard edges. After that, I'm just kind of adding some slightly different shade of purple everywhere in the big clouds. Some a little bit more blue, and then some is going to be a little bit more red than the other, just to create some color variety in this cloud and make them look more interesting. Then once I'm happy with those big clouds, I'm adding some separate one, kind of smaller and thinner and further away toward the left side of the paper. And last but not least, I'm using a very dark blue black color to add in these birds flying over the place along this cloud. And here are our final paintings. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy it. If you liked the video, please subscribe and smash that thumb up button. It really helped me out a lot. The real-time version of these two paintings will be available on my Patreon. Again, thank you so much for all of your support. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!